What's up, everybody? It's Dan, Binder Boneyard, coming at you from the parts room. If you're watching this on YouTube, it's not the usual shop background. We are celebrating our 10-year anniversary, and so because of all of that, I have a special guest. We got Jeff from IH Parts America, who's graciously showed up to take part in the festivities. We did some wheeling yesterday. I don't normally have guests, so you're going to bear with me as I muddle through a terrible interview. And, and so, that's about it. I appreciate everybody watching, listening, everyone that follows along. Thank you for your support. Thanks for spreading the word. We do these things to help keep the IH brand alive, help keep new people, give them something to learn, and help just keep the brand going. So that's why I'm grateful for guys like Jeff. So, Jeff, thanks for coming in.
You bet. First off, congrats on 10 years, man.
Thank you.
Not easy to be in a business for so long and stick to it and stuff, especially through, I've seen your stories and like some of your moves in the middle of winter and this and that, but that's just what, makes you a successful businessman is getting through those hard times and being know what to do with the good times.
Yeah. Sometimes I share those stories, sometimes for some sympathy, because some people
we all need a computer hug every now and then.
Well, and I'm sure you've run into this too, where people assume because we're sort of in the public figure that we have tons of friends and there's always people around us and whatever. And that's not necessarily the case for me, at least. I mean, we're in a small town, so I have friends, but I don't have a huge community here. So sometimes when the crap hits the fan, I have to go outside my community for a little bit of, computer hug, because there's times where it needs a little bit more than just what's around here.
Sometimes they just don't understand what we're going through to keep these parts flowing and keep people happy and the builds going. And
I mean, you've had your share of hardships too. I mean, your shop burned down or your storage burned down years ago, and I know you lost a lot of good stuff there. That was hard. I mean, I can only imagine what you probably
it sucked.
Went
through. That was my lifetime collection of parts gone in 15 minutes. So it sucks, but it's being lucky and knowing at the same time and having good people around you as a tight crew, taking those bad things that happen in life and trying to make good out of it. Mm-hmm. And although I lost all those parts, it was. And I didn't get paid much from the insurance company because I wasn't insured enough, but it was enough cash in the end to get us to the next level, to our next shop in the end. It's like, it's not the way I wanted to kind of get there, but, like I said, to take a negative in life and make a part, it's like, well, at least I can take the money from these parts and then now I can put a deposit on a bigger building and then we can do more business and help out more IH people. So,
yeah. I mean, that's to do this kind of thing. I think you have to have that mentality. You can't be angry all the time, and you can't think that the world's out to get you, and everything bad that happens can't be the end of the world. Because there were when I was moving and Josie's helping and she's like, are you sure this is worth it? And I'm like, I have to, like I'm in this for the rest of my life now. When it was a hobby and I was still welding at another shop and, it was like, well, it's a fun hobby. But when I made the leap and really tried, then it was like, I got to. There's, like Joe Dirt, you got to keep on keeping on.
Totally.
You can't have no in your heart.
Like the first time I did this business, I failed miserably. But what a great lesson in life it was to taste that failure. And because nowadays it's like, I know what that taste is like, and I don't want to go anywhere near it. And it keeps me, from making stupid decisions at time, or if I'm not sure, I've learned to let's not make that decision today. Let me sleep on it and let me see how I feel in the morning. And it's really been helping. Sometimes you get spirited and you're angry and or maybe say something off the cuff when really you should have just I should have just bit my tongue, waited till the next day, slept through it, and made a better decision. But again, it's these hard times in life that bring us to where we are. I tried to get out of the business. I thought I was done in late 99, 2000. But just like you said, it just called me back to it. I eventually, by 2004, I was back in it full time again after working for others and not being satisfied with that.
Yeah. So then that's a great point. Let's go back to the beginning. Since you're talking about history, what got you started into international? What was the catalyst? Why international?
Well, my dad had a couple international trucks growing up, which my older brother still owned to this day.
Oh, nice.
And so growing up in them was one thing. And then, my brother Mike had some IHs and stuff stored at my dad's property, and he was in the business. And then my brother Isa was gotten into the business. And then, we're all brothers. We all kind of think alike. And I got into the business, and I got my first Scout when I was 16, and I still have it. It's in a million pieces, but I still have it. And
now, are you the youngest of the?
So I'm the youngest of the five, and Issa's the oldest, followed by Mike. So, like I said, we're all in the business. We all try to get along as best we can. Mm-hmm. It can be tough at times. It can be easy at times, but we're still here and doing it. And like I said, I got into it in '96 was when I officially. It was like February of '96. I was actually working construction, and I had rented a small shop, and I was doing a little moonlighting on fixing some rigs, and it started to get busy. And so I went to my boss at the time and let him know, hey, this is where I'm at. I can work part-time for you. And he's like, well, part-time doesn't work for me, but best of luck.
Yeah.
And, that first year was rough. I had no idea what I was doing in business. I just knew how to fix IHs and stuff, and it was later that year that I got into an off-road wreck and broke my left femur.
Yeah.
And that's when Chad had just started working for me, and he really kept the shop going while I was...
Who's Chad?
So Chad Maycroft, who's like my brother from another mother. Okay. And he was, we had hooked up from the Sierra Scout Club, and then he started working for me in '96. He was like basically my first employee. And anyways, he kept that shop going for me while I was unable to work. And it really bonded us at that time. And then we kept doing it till like '99. But it was when I fell behind on rent after breaking my leg. And like I said, I was a poor businessman back then. I really didn't know how to save money and how to, properly balance a budget and all this kind of stuff. And it was a struggle. And after, once you fall behind, it's so hard to catch up.
Oh, yeah.
And I had to, make a tough decision one year. I think it was '99 going to Rocky Mountain Rendezvous. And I told myself, if I don't make this much money at this show, I'm done. And I didn't. And I came home and I made that decision. And it was really what a amount of weight lifted off my shoulders. I actually started sleeping again and just knowing, okay, I'm shutting this down. I had to make that. It was a tough decision.
Yeah.
But it was the right decision at the time, because then I started working for other shops, and it taught me how to run properly, how to run a shop. Yeah. And by the time, so, like I said, working for a dealership and some other private companies and just kind of taking mental notes. And then I took a business class at the local college. This was like a few years later. I actually wore out my hips by the age of 29. So I was off work for 10 months. So I had nothing better to do but raise Zaid and eBay off some IH parts. I'm like, I'm gonna go take a college, course. I took a science class, like an earth science, and I took a business class and a typing class. The typing class, I only lasted 2 weeks. The teacher, I could not get past the teacher, so I just walked out one day and never came back to that. I dig science, so I stuck with that. But the business class was good. I took it for a semester, and it helped me hone like certain skills, like what to do. And I remember the place I was working for, beautiful shop, Toyota Honda place, easy to work on. Place was empty. And I'm reading my business book, and the owner would be walking by, and I'm like, hey Joe, what do you know, blah 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 on this, and he'd give me his answer, and I'd be like, okay, well the book says this, you know. And I mean, not that a book's always right, but anyways, it's like, man, no wonder this guy's not doing good. Is like, he's got this beautiful shop and he's just charging so much, and you know, you got to be fair to the people, you know. And it's like, we don't need to make our whole year's living off one guy, you know.
Yeah.
So anyways, the day, that was a short-lived job, maybe 4 or 5 months. That was the last. Was that the last official job I had? I think that was like the last official job. I actually walked in to quit and got fired. So that was April of 2004. And, you know, I just kind of like, let me back up a little bit. So like when I had blown my hips out, I really wasn't much of a computer guy. So I sat there, I had all these parts left over from the business previously stored. Started going on eBay, and I'd put a part on, like, bam, I just made a couple $100. I didn't have to talk to this guy. This is easy. Yeah. So started doing all that. And then, like I said, after that last job, I'm like, well, I didn't know really what I was going to do. And I give all the credit to my dad, because I'm just sitting there one day. I'm like, what am I going to do? I'm living at home. I'm married. Got a couple kids. And my dad's all, why don't you just fix up that pole barn out there and just go back to working on internationals? And I just said, all right, well, Dad's giving me the blessing to work at home and stuff. So that's what I did. And
yeah. I remember those days too. I remember coming down to run the Rubicon, and your shop was there in the barn.
Yeah.
You know, you and Darren.
Yep. And eventually Michael.
Yeah, and then finally Michael there. But
Michael wasn't there long because we had moved after that. But
yeah. I remember that coming down. I can't remember when that Rubicon run was. I think it was 06. 06
yeah,
or 07?
Probably 05, 6, 7, somewhere around then.
Yeah, because I still had my green 80. Yeah. And I remember that. I think the same thing happens with me, is that our internet presence versus our real life presence. And I remember you were all over the internet and you were selling parts. Like when I was first introduced to internationals and I was like, this dude's legit. Like, he's got a website. He's got, like, this is it. Like, he's got employees. This is a real deal. And then I came to your shop, and it was the barn.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, this is a little different. You know, it's like
a little hokey, but
I wouldn't even say hokey. I was just like, I thought it was a shop, yeah. And it was like a barn.
That was been my dream. You know, yeah. That's what I wanted.
Well, of course. But I just remember, I'm like, the dude's pro, and he's working out of this building. So if he can work out of a barn and be, you know, legit, then there's something there.
You can do it
too. Yeah, you know. So I just remember that. That always stuck with me from the early days.
I'll tell you what's always stuck with me was the smell from there. It was a barn, folks, and the animals were next door. And the summertime heat and all that. And we called it a cave because it had no airflow. But you know what, man? That's what toughened us up and you know, made us appreciate what we have now today, is knowing that what we had to work for and work through in the past.
Yeah. It's it's funny. So how long did you work out of the barn?
So from 04 to about 9 or 10. So we were there a good 5 years.
Yeah.
And that's when I bought my house in Grass Valley, built the shop there, and then we moved the business up there. And my plan was 5 years there. Got a little bit of trouble with the county when I was there, so that kind of spread that out to about 6 years. But again, you know, having that barn fire there was unfortunate. But that was when I got the insurance check. It's like, well, you know, I've got some money now. Now it's time to. And the business was growing, and I couldn't add any more employees to my home location. It was just we were maxed out. So
yeah,
you know, we're fortunate but unfortunate. But again, it like I said, if you can take the worst things that happen to your life and you know, make something that smells like a beautiful rose out of it in the end. So that's how we ended up in our new shop, and also selling an SS2 vehicle that I'd built. That was like the last little bit of money I needed. I'm like, I got a deposit, you know, I got enough for a deposit. Let's see if we can move this to the next, and hopefully what is the final level.
So that's your forever home then, your current shop?
I hope so. Yeah. I mean, we're in California, man. All we talk about is moving out of that state. But I love where I live. Beautiful weather. It's beautiful country. I got awesome wheeling. The ocean's close. The deserts are close. The snow is close. So I'm too invested in there. I've made my bed. And, you know, so no, I don't want to move again.
Yeah.
I kind of need to. We really could continue to grow the business, but at the same time, with business conditions the way they are and taxes and everything, I'm okay with just staying like how we are. There is a building right around the corner from me I'm throwing a rock, and it's on the highway. It's flat acreage, commercial, 10,000 square foot building, retail, and it used to be an International Harvester dealership.
Oh man.
And I would love to buy it, but that's like, that's another commitment and another huge mortgage bill and all that. So like I said, I think we're just going to try to govern ourselves to on how much business that we can, physically do, and just be comfortable with what we have.
Well, and that's the other thing too, is that you grow and then it's more weight, it's more pressure, because I think back to my first shop was, $700 a month. Like, I would kill for $700 a month right now. I mean, my mortgage on this place is...
My PG&E bill's more than that.
Yeah, exactly. And so, in that respect, you're like, oh man, it sure was easy, but it wasn't. Because I remember back then it was struggling, you're rubbing nickels together.
Yeah.
And so it's like, you sometimes, at least for me, I don't want to say take for granted, because there are days where I walk through the shop and I'm like, this is all mine, And so it's like, I remember back when, it was one little toolbox and a Craftsman drill press, and man, I thought I was going to be the next guy. So yeah, you look back and, it's humble beginnings, but then at the same time, like, you've got all this pressure from growing. So you're like, yeah, if you can balance that, like, you hit that sweet spot, which it sounds like you're kind of there. Like,
I feel like I'm there. I'm very fortunate, very lucky. I'm so appreciative of what I have today. And I'm pretty happy with where I'm at. Like I said,
and I can tell. I mean,
I don't need any more business. Again, what I found is, like, when we did do more business, it was just, unfortunately, like I said, our tax system and everything just punishes you for being more productive of a human being. And so it's like, why do that when we only need to, I'm just going to be this productive. I mean, business is still growing. We're still lucky in this era of economic times to still be seeing growth in our business. There is a lot of new parts and stuff coming into our industry, and so that does help, sell more parts and stuff. But ultimately, it's I don't know. Like I said, it's like, on one half of me, sure, there's days like, I want to do more and more, but on other days it's like, dude, well, what? You're sleeping good at night because you don't have the stress of not being able to afford rent, power bills, payroll, insurance, all those kind of things. It's there's always curves being thrown at you, curveballs all the time. So
no, I understand. I'm still in that growth mode. Part of my problem is just employees. Like, I wouldn't have any trouble getting work. I mean, I turn down work all the time. I know you do too, because they call here after you say no. So, it's like, but I don't have the manpower.
Yeah.
And so that's my limit. Yeah, the shop is small. We got some acreage. I could probably improve flow and work spaces and stuff, but, it comes down to manpower. So, I mean, have you had any problems with that over the years?
Absolutely. This is such a niche business that for sale, on the sales side, you just can't hire anybody to do that because they have to be knowledgeable in the IH products. We did just to throw everybody off, when you call up my retail, there is a guy named Jeff now working there. It's not me, obviously, but Jeff's a Toyota guy for like 20 some odd years. So he knows automotive and parts, knows the difference between a brake rotor and a distributor rotor, but he's on a crash course to learn IH. So again, it's very tough to find IH orientated people in the shop. Little different there because you just see a mechanic, and once you show them and train them the nuances of the scouts and the rust repair and the majority of the stuff we're doing, really the training never ends. But but once you get them in there and going, it's definitely a little bit easier. But I feel you, because where you're at, it's a little bit more. We're in Grass Valley, and we're a tourist town. There's only so much picking you can do for help out there. So out here in Terrebonne, it definitely a little more limiting, and so it's tough. So to answer your question, we run into that. Absolutely.
Well, but you've been able to continue growing. So, I mean, you've had Michael, who's been with you for
15 years.
Yeah, forever. And I mean, Darren's been there for
like 18, 19 years, 18 years. Yeah.
Yeah. And you had Chad for a long time till just a few years ago.
Yeah. Chad wanted to try different things. And now he's up in Alaska. I hope to one day drive an IH up there for him and to do that trip again. But and there's actually, we've talked a little bit lately, maybe adding him back into the business, but as maybe after when Michael leaves, and if we're hurting for technical advice and help on the phone, fortunately my son Zaid's got the technology down. He's like, I could route phone calls to him and I could have him logged into one of our computers all the way in Alaska. And I'm like, well, we'll have to talk about that and see, would be nice to have my brother from another mother back and all that. But it's tough. So.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think that's important to business growth, is having loyal employees, because of what you said about the nuances. You can't just have Joe off the street just start answering the phone. Like, they have to know a little bit. Even when you got the books and everything, Josie went through that when she started. She had her Scout, but it was like she didn't realize there were all these parts and, looking up things. So it's taken her 2.5 years to get to where she's just uncomfortable on the phone and not terrified.
Yeah.
And it'll be another few years before she's comfortable, probably.
Yeah.
But, I think that's important, though, that you have a good business that, for you, your business is good, you're growing, you have people that want to stay and want to be part of this.
The business would not be my business would not be successful if I did not have the people I have there that I'm surrounded myself with to help and all that. I mean, I have a great crew. I'm very fortunate to have the people I have working for me, and it's not like I said I can, drive away and say I'll be off for a few days, going to go wheeling and go say hi to Dan, and the business just keeps going. And so, like I said, I feel very lucky and fortunate. I never forget that. I know where I've come from. I've been in that ditch digging hard, and it is nice. I'm not saying I've reached the top. I don't think for me there is no top. It's like I'll always keep striving to do better, be better, do more things, try to come out with more parts for the industry and stuff.
Yeah.
But ultimately, I mean, once surrounding yourself with good people is key, but hard and difficult to do that. They don't come around very often, but when they do, and you're lucky enough to hang on to them and all that, what a difference.
Yeah, no, I agree, and then that's the thing. It really does make a difference. It's because people are always like, oh, Dan, you did a great job building that truck. And it's like, whoa, all I did was order the parts.
Yeah.
Like my crew did most of it. Maybe I oversaw some of it.
Yeah.
I'm in the YouTube video explaining it, but, 80% of the labor was these guys.
I literally got to on these builds, I'm the guy that collects the check, and that's really it. And I literally, when we do one of our videos, I have to have Darren there and go, all right, what did we do to this build? What's special about it? We just did a video last week. It was nice because we had it at Nats. I had boards made up for it. So all the notes I needed were actually already, I told Darren, I don't need you today, buddy. I got these boards here to, these little cue cards in the back, so to speak, to get me through this one. But I totally get it. Yeah, I'm not doing the builds on these anymore. I do my own builds at home and stuff. Yeah. It's as a personal hobby now, but it is extremely rare. I dress up and put a wrench in my hand for a customer build. I gotta.
Yeah. I mean, I still do quite a bit of customer work just because we're so short-handed.
Yeah.
But we do some of my builds in here too, where we'll block out like a week and we'll be like, I'll put all the guys on it. Yeah, it costs me money to do that, but it's experience for them too, though, because sometimes we're doing stuff that we wouldn't do to a customer truck, or at least we don't get asked about. But the guys that aren't skilled in IH are learning, the difference between a T19 and a T34. Little things like for us, that's,
we know it needs the bell housing to go with it, and a throw-up bearing and a pilot bearing and all that. But these guys don't know, and without them getting hands-on, and that's how. And it's great, like I said, to have them work on your own stuff, because you're the customer. You can make a quick fly decision on, whether it's approved for the additional work. You're not waiting to hear back, or,
or if they mess it up, it's not rework time on a customer that's not paying.
They learned too. Hopefully they learned from that mistake and stuff.
Well, and it sounds like you and I kind of went the same route. Like, I didn't go to school for mechanics. I didn't go to school for business. I didn't do, I messed up a lot of scout parts, like learning early on. I'm like, just not knowing mechanics. And so now I've used my 25 years of working on them to help other people learn and not make the mistakes that I made, and walk my guys through it, and do these the videos and podcasts where people can learn from me. And sometimes people are like, oh, you're a blowhard for telling us what to do. And I'm like, I'm just sharing my experiences. And if you take it
with a grain of salt, you either can utilize that information or just ignore it. You don't,
And so it's kind of nice to hear your story, because I'm like, okay, I'm not just some, you went through it too, and different scale. Because I did have a business before, back in the early mid 2000s, that failed. So, I had no business skills. I had too much overhead. I tried to grow too fast, and I got in over my head.
But what a great lesson in life, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Because not to make those mistakes again, and this is what's making you so successful the second time around.
Well, yeah.
It helps you make you successful.
Yeah. I'm trying, and I've definitely learned a lot, and you're
definitely no dummy, because otherwise you'd be making those same mistakes again.
Yeah, for sure. It's nice to just learn from guys that have already been there, and not just you, but like
we all learn from each other.
And then the other vein that I really try to emphasize is these old guys that aren't with us. How many of you guys in the last 25 years that you would get stories or help from, they're all gone now. So it's like, I'm using them, I'm sponging up their stuff too, so that to help keep it alive.
Going to the IH shows, especially like Harvester, Homecoming, and the Nats, and you talk to those guys that were employees, and that's the most favorite thing of mine going to the shows, is talking to the old employees and hearing the stories of back in the day. 'Cause I certainly wasn't around when they were building. I'm born in 70. I'm 50 years old, but I was born in 74, and hell, most of IH's life was dang near over by then. So to hear these stories from these guys and absorb that information, definitely, it's such a treat.
And it's, anytime one of these guys starts telling stories, it's like I just stop, and even when they call and they're looking for something, or they have a bunch of parts they want to get rid of, and they got stories, like I'll listen, because it's they're not going to be around a lot longer. And sometimes you pick up some good stuff from them, and it's important to keep the brand and the history alive. Even if it's not your story, it's someone else's story that you can help keep going.
Our main motto is, number one is preserving history, and number two is making money doing it, so we can keep doing number one. And that's our philosophy, and like I said, and those guys are part of that history, talking to them, and then spreading what you just talked to. Like, I talked to a guy that worked at IH, and he told me that squeak under your travel all rattled, this is how you fix it. And I had no idea until I talked to that old guy. But now I can spread that word and tell you how to fix it,
That's exactly it. That it's so funny. Those guys, and you say it, you're like, this is something that stumped me forever. And then they're like, oh, really? All you got to do is this is all, we use a piece of rubber and put it in. And you're like, why didn't
I know, no, like, so something so simple. And stuff.
Yeah. And it's not just us that's crazy. Like the rattle was a problem all the way back to when they were new. It's not like it's a 50-year-old truck problem. It's a IH problem.
It's funny, like one of the stories I remember hearing at Harvester Homecoming is they were saying, when they had one of the executives had to hop in a travel all to go to Chicago, like before he hopped in it, they were like, which one's he taking? Oh, he's taking this one. Okay, pop the seatbelts apart, put some felt so that they're not rattling. And, these things like to rattle here, this. And so these executives would hop in and they'd have a perfect drive, and they'd come back like, I don't know what all these people are complaining about. This thing's perfectly rattle free. And all the other guys in the research center were like, oh, well, we kind of doctored that one up. And I don't think part of the story, they never would tell the executive that, but they would definitely give them a special rig that was a little bit doctored up to make sure it was a perfect drive for him, and when he needed something.
Yeah, I think I heard that story too. It might have been retold to me by Clancy, but yeah, it's still it's funny how they do that. It's just, yeah, the old times. What else was I going to ask you about? Oh, wheeling, because that seems to be your other passion. You know, you built Hideous, the L series wheeler for Ultimate Adventure, and that's kind of your wheeler. But you had you've been through several wheelers, right? I've
had my original Terra, the Terrorizer, as I used to call it way back in the day, which then got nicknamed Reynolds Wrap because it was gray primer and it was beat from one end to the other from going through the Rubicon. And then that one, I still have the windshield frame, I think, out of it, and a couple parts. And then my next major one was White Scout, which, as a lot of people know, got rolled at the last day of Ultimate Adventure in 2020. That thing right now is down to a body tub, and I've just been slowly working on it and stuff. And it was my wheeler. There's definitely, when I look back, I wheeled a lot in the early, from 2000, like 2007, 8, 9, like I said, you'd come down we'd do annual Rubicon runs. But as I got into the teens, I was so working hard on the business.
Yeah.
And, White Scout was needing some work too, like the typical rewire and stuff. And I just I stopped going wheeling. Like I was lucky to go on a snow run a year at that point for quite a handful of years.
Yep.
And then, when Ultimate Adventure came around, they were building the Ultimate International, the Scout 800 of Trent McGee's. And I got the phone call like, hey, we're building this. We noticed you're the one and only International Harvester advertiser in our magazine. Would you like to be a sponsor of this? And I was like, only if I get to go. And they're like, you get to go. I'm like, cool, where are we going? And they're like, somewhere 3,000 miles away to the west of you. And I'm like, where in the hell is that? And I'm like, oh, we're going to Alaska. I'm like, dude, I've always wanted to go to Alaska. So it was kind of like the catalyst that really got me back into wheeling. I really realized I miss wheeling, and so after Alaska, did more work to White Scout to improve on it, and did the Rubicon a couple times, and then did a UA20, like I said, rolled it, and then it's been basically parked ever since. But what I have planned for it, although the plan isn't 100%, it's going to be pretty cool. Half of me wants to put it right back the way it was, but then the other half of me wants to do what I've always wanted to do. And I don't want to say anything because I'm not sure if I'll follow through with it, but
that's fine.
As it's looking, that should be a cool rig. And then Hideous, man, that thing, like I said, you can be good and you can be lucky, or you can be damn good and lucky. And I was definitely a lot of luck on building that. I didn't think it was going to turn out the way, like I said, it turned out awesome, And I've got those Ultimate Adventure, those magazine guys to thank, Trent McGee, Vern Simons, Christian Hazel, and many more that inspired me to build the rig the way I built it. And then to see it go full circle where now I've got Christian Hazel into an international, and they were sort of looking at my build and kind of built it similar, but honestly sexier. That Hemi National is just so badass.
Yeah, they did a good job on that for being not international guys.
Johnny Wood knocked it out of the park on that one for sure.
Yeah. No, and that's good. And then, the White Scout was kind of a test platform. I think you put a lot of your own parts into that
that's where CPT came from.
Break them in. Yeah. So, and that's good. And we do the same thing here. We build a truck and we're kind of, I don't want to say testing, but we're experimenting to see, oh, this is going to work, or this isn't going to work, or, or just.
Is it a product worth developing and producing and putting on the market that people are going to buy, and then you may sell a few, but it'll never be enough to pay for the investment you put in. So I totally get you on that. There's certain things we've done one or twosies of, and people are like, when are you coming out with the kit? Never. Why? Because it's just too much R&D time. It's too problematic to hand it to the general automotive tech to do, or a homeowner.
There's too many variations.
Yeah.
International, even though people are like, oh, you can just bolt this to that and do that. No, the difference between, an 80 to an 800 to an 800B.
Yeah.
You're like, they're so wildly different in so many ways that your bolt-on part, it's not worth it for a 2-year window or whatever.
Yeah.
I get the same calls.
Maybe eventually it'll happen, but right now, the market the way it is, it's good. There's certain parts we need, there's certain parts we don't need, and yet you still have other guys making that same duplicating. It's like, dude, why are you making that? Why? We already have somebody making that. It's like, there's so many parts in this industry in the IH world that we need. it's like nobody should be making the same part, that's already being made. It's like it's it's cool sometimes to have choices, but again, it's still a wide market out there of parts availability that we need to fill. And eventually we'll get there. There's the world we live in has definitely been changing in the IH world. A lot of new big companies coming in producing parts that we've always wanted to see have. So it's nice.
It's exciting seeing things grow the way they are after kind of being stagnant for a lot of years and being the forgotten brand and being those weird guys that, with our 2 scouts at the Jeep get together or whatever, and so it's nice to kind of start being, I don't want to say accepted, but just more regular.
But it is accepted, because I remember back in the magazine days, like they never said anything nice about a scout.
Yeah.
They always would talk poop about him and stuff, and they just never gave him the credit due. And now you look, and now they're the hottest thing, and you see different builds getting a lot of attention, like SEMA builds and off-road builds and stuff. So they are definitely very noticed nowadays, and definitely accepted now as a cool rig to want to have and own.
Yeah, they're unique. They're not a Bronco. They're not a Land Cruiser. They're their own thing that people are attracted to. Yeah. And I think that's part of what attracted me to them, 100 years ago when I got in. So, yeah, it's exciting to see where things are going to keep going. I mean, you're still young enough. You've got another who knows how long in the business. So, we'll just keep watching it grow, and it's exciting.
Yeah, we'll see. Like I said, I got my, spawn Zaid, working at the business, taking over the next generation of stuff. So it's cool. I'm very happy to see him excited into the, interested in the business and stuff, and hope he continues it on and the legacy of what we've, come together with. But it's definitely, like I said, it's exciting because we see all these new parts, and then we've got this new Scout Motors electric EV Scout supposed to eventually come out too. And in my opinion, I think we're going to see another uptick in business, because that's going to bring in a whole new market of people, or a whole new line of people into our market that weren't familiar with a Scout. They see this new EV Scout, and then they start like, where's Scout? And then they start doing a little history, and they realize, oh, wow, there's an old Scout. I got to have one of those too to match my new EV Scout. Yeah. So I really think we're going to see a whole new type of clientele come into our business and want to see, want an old IH and then, go from there and enjoy it along with their new EV Scout.
Yeah, no, I agree. I think it's going to improve the not improve, maybe is the right word. I don't know. Just increase the eyeballs on the brand, which is good. People are gonna learn more about the history and the heritage. And,
it's gonna make them more valuable. So, like I said, and that on one end, it doesn't make a lot of people happy, because then it puts them out of reach of owning one. Yeah. But if they're fortunate enough to still find one out some backfield and pick it up for a reasonable price, and it's become a good investment. Like 10 years ago, I remember losing $100,000+ job because the guy wanted to know, how much am I going to be able to sell my Scout for after we're done with this? And I was like, dude, you'd be lucky to get $30,000 out of this thing, and that's like high. And we lost the job, but I was honest with the guy. Yeah. Yep. And it's always the best way to go. You don't want someone unhappy because you weren't straight up with him. If that's what he was looking to do, to build it as an investment at the time, it was not a wise investment. Look, fast forward 10 years, now guys are building them strictly to flip them because and they're making money doing it. I think the market has softened for sure in the last couple 3 years. They're still seeing some good prices, but I definitely still think it's softened, but I don't think it'll be like that forever. The markets go up and go down, and obviously we're in a presidential election year, so that can affect the economy and how much people want to spend on some high dollar stuff. But but it'll always be there,
Yeah, I don't think it's going backwards too much. I think we're
softened, just kind of leveled off a little bit, where we're not seeing too many crazy. We still see that occasional like over $100,000 sale, and that makes it good. But at the same time, it swings up and down, but it ain't going anywhere.
Yeah. So that's good to know. Good to think about. Well, I think we're gonna cut it off. We've gotten some good convo out of this. So I appreciate you coming down.
You bet, absolutely.
Thank you for going wheeling.
Yeah,
I know
man, that was some legit wheeling yesterday.
It was wheeling.
That was fun. Winch cables were pulled more than once, and all that. But yeah, again, man, congrats on 10 years. I'm really happy to see you flourish.
Thank
you. Know, I remember when you got back in it and stuff, and it's definitely not easy business to be in. You know, people think, oh, we're just living it up, but it's like, man, no, we're still putting in the time and the hours and all that, and trips to get these parts accumulated. So yeah. So, again, congratulations.
Well, thank you. Thanks you again.
Having me.
Yeah. No, you're welcome. Anytime, come down. If you guys are looking for a lot of parts, Jeff's website, IH Parts America. It's a brand new website.
Yeah, it's fairly new.
It's been revamped.
Got most of the kinks worked out of it.
Yeah, it's a good looking website. So, if you can't find it, try Jeff. But anyways, I appreciate everybody for listening, for watching. Until next time. With Jeff, I'm Dan from Binder Boneyard.